Hi, I'm Jacob Gallucci, and right now I'd like to present my idea for this week. Back in the mid-1990s, three anthology albums from the Beatles were released, and these albums contained alternate takes of songs that they did, and live performances and outtakes as well, and I feel that there should be three more anthology albums, because the first three, I think they barely scratch the surface of what else is out there from the Beatles. There's many YouTube videos of songs that weren't on the anthology albums. There's a lot of outtakes and alternate takes of songs and live performances and early demos and things like that. And if they did do three more anthology albums, here's what I would put on each one. Anthology 1 Part 2 covers the Beatles from like 1958 through late 1964. Excuse me. And the songs that I would put on Anthology 1 Part 2 would consist of alternate takes of songs from their first four albums: Please Please Me, With the Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, and Beatles for Sale. There's a good amount of alternate takes from those albums on Anthology 1, but for some of the other songs that have alternate takes, they should be put on Anthology 1 Part 2. And Anthology 1 Part 2 could also contain the 10 other songs from their audition for Decca Records on January 1st, 1962. 5 of those 15 songs are on Anthology 1, and the other 10 were not, and the other 10 should be on Anthology 1 Part 2. Other songs that could be put on Anthology 1 Part 2 could be demos of songs they gave away to other artists, such as Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, and Peter and Gordon. And other songs on Anthology 1 Part 2 could be other early recordings they did with Stuart Sutcliffe and or Pete Best. With Stuart Sutcliffe, they did demos in 1960, and 2 of those songs are early versions of I'll Follow the Sun and One After 909. And other songs that could be on Anthology 1 Part 2 could be additional live performances from concerts and other songs they did on The Ed Sullivan Show and other TV shows back then. Now, for Anthology 2 Part 2, I would include live performances from concerts, The Ed Sullivan Show, and other TV shows, and alternate takes of songs from their albums from 1965 to 1967. So it'll contain alternate takes of songs from Help, Rubber Soul, Revolver, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and Magical Mystery Tour. And it could also contain demos of more songs they gave away to other artists. There's other things that Anthology 2 Part 2 could contain as well. This could include That Means a Lot. That Means a Lot was an outtake from Help, and the version on Anthology 2 has too much reverb on it. There's a version on YouTube without all the reverb, and that version should be on Anthology 2 Part 2. This could also contain the full 7-minute and 24-second version of 12 Bar Original. It's an instrumental that was recorded during the sessions for Rubber Soul, and the version on Anthology 2 is just about 3 minutes long, and the full-length version, which is on YouTube, is 7 minutes and 24 seconds long, and that should be on Anthology 2 Part 2. Other songs that this could contain could be the 8-minute and 10-second version of It's All Too Much. It's All Too Much was actually on Yellow Submarine, but it was recorded in mid-1967, and the version on Yellow Submarine is 6.5 minutes long, but the full-length uncut version is 8 minutes and 10 seconds long, and it should be on Anthology 2 Part 2. The full 9-minute and 38-second version of Flying should be on here as well. Flying was on Magical Mystery Tour, and it's just over 2 minutes long, but uncut, it's 9.5 minutes long. 9 minutes and 38 seconds long, to be exact. Also, on Anthology 2 Part 2, Carnival of Light should be on there. Yes, Carnival of Light. One of the most famous Beatles outtakes ever. It's 13 minutes and 48 seconds long. And from what I've heard, it's mostly just sound effects. And Paul McCartney came up with this song. And they've been saying for years that it should be released, but it should be on this album. It was recorded in January of 1967. Anthology 2 Part 2 could also contain the US promo single mix of Penny Lane with the additional trumpet ending. The additional trumpet ending is on Anthology 2 on a version of Penny Lane on that, but it's an alternate take of Penny Lane. The master take of Penny Lane with the additional trumpet should be on Anthology 2. And also, the full-length 6-minute and 13-second version of You Know My Name, Look Up the Number should be on Anthology 2 Part 2 as well. The version that was the B-side to Let It Be is just over 4 minutes long, and the version on Anthology 2 is about 5 minutes and 42 seconds long, and it's still not the full-length version. The full-length version is 6 minutes and 13 seconds long, and it should be on Anthology 2 Part 2. And last but not least, Anthology 3 Part 2 should contain alternate takes of other songs from their albums from 1968 to 1970. So you'll have alternate takes of songs that were on the White Album, Yellow Submarine, Abbey Road, and Let It Be. And this will also contain demos of more songs they gave away to other artists, such as Sour Milk Sea by Jackie Lomax and Goodbye by Mary Hopkin. Sour Milk Sea is a demo that was recorded by George Harrison, and Goodbye is a demo that was recorded by Paul McCartney. And Anthology 3 Part 2 could also contain White Album outtakes and demos such as Circles and Child of Nature. Circles is a demo that was recorded by George Harrison, and it wasn't properly recorded until George Harrison recorded it on his 1982 solo album Gone Tropo. And Child of Nature is a John Lennon demo, and that song became Jealous Guy. Jealous Guy ended up on his 1971 album Imagine. And there's an 8-minute and 4-second version of I Want You, She's So Heavy. The version on Abbey Road ends abruptly, and the full-length version without the abrupt ending is 8 minutes and 4 seconds long. And there's a 2-minute and 11-second version of Her Majesty. Her Majesty is on Abbey Road, and it's only 23 seconds long. The full-length demo that was recorded around the time back in early 1969, the full-length demo is 2 minutes and 11 seconds long. And give me 1 second here. But anyway, Anthology 3 Part 2 could also contain the full 4-minute and 25-second version of Not Guilty. Not Guilty is on Anthology 3, but it's edited. It's only about 3.5 minutes long on there, and the full-length uncut version of Not Guilty is 4 minutes and 25 seconds long. Anthology 3 Part 2 could also contain the full 1-minute and 58-second version of Can You Take Me Back. Can You Take Me Back is a short little song that was on after Cry Baby Cry on the White Album. Cry Baby Cry is a John Lennon song, and Can You Take Me Back is a Paul McCartney song, and the full-length demo is 1 minute and 58 seconds long, and that should be on Anthology 3 Part 2. And supposedly there's a 27-minute and 11-second version of Helter Skelter. That should be on this album. Revolution 1 Take 20 should be on here. That's 10 minutes and 51 seconds long. It combines Revolution 1 and parts of Revolution 9. And also, Anthology 3 Part 2 should contain the Get Back albums. The early versions of Let It Be. There's two different versions. that were supposed to come out in 1969, and they were mixed and compiled by Glyn Johns, and these albums should be on Anthology Free Part 2. Now, all the songs I mentioned here, there's bootlegs of them, and they're all most if not all of these songs are on YouTube, with the notable exception of Carnival of Light. There's Carnival of Light fakes on there, but the real version still does not exist. And hopefully it will be available one day. But I'm hoping all these songs will be compiled onto new anthology albums from the Beatles. I think you'll see more. I think you'll see these eventually. I really do. I think there will be more anthology albums out one day. In the next couple years or so, I could see it, definitely. But anyway, I'm sorry for rambling, but I have another video to post here today, and stay tuned for that.